Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about how you can troubleshoot application in Azure App Services. We're going to take a web application and then we'll deploy that application onto Azure Cloud, and then we will see step by step how we see different problems and how we enable different sorts of logging and monitoring solutions and how we pin down the exact problem to solve a problem that we will actually put into the application. Now, if you've been working in the on-premises applications, you know that you, for example, use IIS, and to troubleshoot applications in IIS, you have all the logs available handy in on the server folders. So, for example, you have access log where you can go first on your IIS, and then you can see what is happening to the on a very higher level when you access the application, what happens, and then you see some sort of high level idea of the problem if there is a problem, and then you might go to the server logs, or you might have to install some sort of third-party applications to further dig deep into your application logs. But what happens when the things are on Azure App Services? You obviously don't have access to the server up to the extent where you have on premises. So how are we going to troubleshoot those applications? We'll see that today. Because it's a little bit different from on-prem and you don't have full control on the system, so it will be a little bit different. The second challenge that we usually get while troubleshooting or while trying to find out the problems in Azure App Services is that the number of products that are provided by any cloud solution are so many that you get confused which product to use and which not to use. So we will go through what are different monitoring and logging applications that we can use to troubleshoot and debug our application in production. So for that, I have a very simple application which just connects to Azure SQL database and then inserts some records there and shows the list of some records, and then you can see the details. Very simple application. What I've done in this application, I've intentionally put a bug in this application or intentionally put a problem in this application so that when we deploy this application on Azure App Services, we can see how we narrow down the problem. I will run this application locally just to show you how this application is running. By the way, the problem that is there with the application is that it runs locally very absolutely fine, but when we deploy it to Azure Cloud into the app service, it has a problem and we need to troubleshoot that. So I'm going to run it. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so you can see it's just a simple list of records that I have in here, and I can go and see the details. Sorry about that. I can go ahead and see the details. It's simple as that, and go back, and I can add a new record in here. Okay, so it works fine locally. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy that on Azure Cloud, and you might know there are several ways to deploy applications on app services. You can deploy it through the FTP. You can deploy it through by having Azure pipelines, or through Kudu services, or the other way that we're going to use right now is to publish through Real Studio. So I'm going to right click on my project. I'm going to publish it. All right, so I'm going to create a new app service plan because right now I don't have any app service plan where I can put this application. So I'm going to create a new. I'm going to create a new one, and I've already logged in through my Azure Cloud account. I selected my subscription, and I'm going to select this resource group. I'm going to put this in this resource group. I can create a new resource group as well, by the way, but that's not the focus of our lesson today. It's going to create a new hosting plan, And under the hosting plan, it will create one app service. If you notice application inside, I'm going to put none, and I'll talk about what application insights are, but we'll skip through it for now. Create. So now it's going to deploy. First, it's going to create a hosting plan and then an app service plan, and then it's going to deploy my application on there. Because it's going to take some time, I'm going to pause the video right now and I'll get back when it's done. Because I can't. All right, so it looks like the app has been deployed and is published onto the app service. I'll go ahead and access the application. So you can see if I go back to Azure and in my resource group where I deployed this application, I can see an app service and an app service plan over there. So I'll go ahead and click on this app service. So you can see the URL here. I'm going to copy the URL and access that and see what happens. See, now when I access this application, the same application that was running locally, when I deployed it, it's having this issue. Now, if I go through this error, this is a standard error that you usually get when you haven't configured your custom error pages. This page doesn't show you anything. It's just a very generic message. Now, how can we further dig deep? If you were working on on-prem IIS server, you would definitely go to access logs and see what's happening there. That would be your very first clue. So how can we access the access logs in our app service when we don't have on-prem IIS there? So if you go there in the application, you will see a lot of options here. But if you talk about logging and monitoring options, you know that generally on this side of the blade, you have monitoring solutions here. And we can definitely see alerts and metrics. And you know that alerts are usually for sending emails if any problem occurs, but you have to first set up the alerts. Metrics is usually giving you different stats of your application, like performance and traffic and all of the sorts of data. Now, log streams looks like it's going to be some sort of a stream of log. Let's go there and see what happens here. Okay, when I go to the log streams, it says application logs are switched off. It means we cannot see anything. So we first have to enable the logs. If I see app service logs, I go here and I can enable the logs so that on my application, whatever is being thrown by the application, that is logged somewhere. If I go here, the very first thing is application logging. I'm going to turn it on. So file system means that where my app is deployed right now under a particular folder, it will start putting the logs on that folder, just like the access logs on your IIS. The only difference is that you cannot access those logs in here, just like you can do on-prem. I can do this one as well, but this goes, the same thing will go to blobs. I don't want to do that for now. Web server logs, just like you have IIS web server logs. I'm going to do that on the file system. I'm going to say retention period 1 day only. Detailed error messages, sure, I'll go with that. Failed request tracing, I'll go with that. And I will save it. Now let's see what happens. It's done. I will get back to my log streams and we'll see what happens. It's trying to connect. Okay, so looks like the logs are being streamed now. I'm going to access this page again. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm back. So I can see things are being logged here. Again, you went to the log stream, you enabled the log stream through app service logs, and now you can see the logs, log stream over here. So if I try to read this message, it's very cluttered. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to copy this So I'm trying to copy this out to better have a look at what's happening. So I'm going to copy it. I have just created one HTML file. I'm going to copy the contents there so that I can open that in the browser to have a better look. Okay, so this is the error that I'm getting. It says it tries to access the application, and this is the physical path managed by Panda. Okay, so this gave me a bit of a clue that the request has reached the web server and has gone to my application, and the MVC routes are also kicking in, but it still doesn't give me enough information about what is happening. So I cannot use this information to solve the problem, and these messages are very generic messages. So what I need to do, it means that the log stream that's coming up here is not enough because it's more like your access log, so it's not helping me. What do I need to do next? If I go up, if you remember when we deployed the application, it gives us an option to create application insight, which we didn't do. If we go here in the application insights, this is a very detailed logging and monitoring solution that you can put in your app service. If you have worked in the APM or the application monitoring like New Relic, you will know what sort of functionalities New Relic provides. Application Insight is very similar to New Relic. If you see, I'm going to show you what are different features of Application Insight and how we can use this to troubleshoot our application. First, I'm going to turn on the Application Insight. And when I do that, it's going to ask me to create an Application Insight app or resource. So I'm going to create new, and I'll give it default name. And everything I'm going to keep on to on. Show local variables for your application. I'm going to make it on for now. And all the SQL commands, if you want to troubleshoot, I'm going to put this on as well. Okay. So it's going to create the application inside. And it's going to restart my application as well. So what happens basically with the application insights is that it installs an extension in my where my application is in the app service, and that small extension will collect all the logs and all the stats of my application, including the performance statistics, errors, exceptions. Now, because we turn these low-level things on as well, so it will show me the stack trace and all the details there. While this is being deployed, I'm going to pause it and we'll get back. All right, so this is deployed. I will go back to my resource group just to see how it looks like right now. I will refresh it. And you can see the application inside application is now there. If I go there, this is a very extensive application. So you can see on the left hand side, there's a lot of configuration options that you can see there. If we go through here, investigate has all these small applications that helps you troubleshoot and find out problems. We'll go through these one by one. First, we'll just have a bird's eye view of other options. So monitoring is very similar to the ones that we had in the app service. Alerts, metrics. This log analytics we'll talk about in detail. This is very, very handy when you have to go deeper into trying to find out problems in your logs. Usage is mostly talks about your traffic. So it talks about how many users are using your application, how many sessions have been done. Funnel actually gives you more of the idea of how your users came onto the application and where did they end up in the traffic. That makes you a nice view where you can track the users as well, and other metrics over here. Configure is you can obviously change different configurations and properties of your application inside. Now, if I go here, trying to solve the problem, it says failures. I can obviously go there and see what's happening there. We don't see anything here. I can't see any request count over here as well. The reason is that we haven't accessed the application after enabling the log. So we have to go back and access the application again, and then it will hopefully start logging everything. So I'm gonna refresh this. It takes some time because the application is on the Azure cloud. I'm trying to access from my local, and I haven't done any performance of the positions or anything. That's why it's a bit slower. So we can see the page is failed again. If I get back to the same page, I'm going to refresh it one time, and we can see that there are some failed requests showing up on the graph and some of the things on the graph. So this is our main page, and we can see a few graphs that are built in already there. Failed request, server response time, availability, server request, and all other things. I can go ahead and create as many graphs on this page as I want. So the time duration you can see is 1 hour. That's fine. So it shows me some failed requests. I can click on that, or I can go to the failures, and I can see the failed request count is 3 because I actually refresh the page 3 times. So I can see 3 requests, and you can see on which path the error actually came in, because this is my default path, contact index. That's why it's showing me that this page get request had the errors. So see how easy it is to track down the problems, and all the when you have problems on any of the pages, they will show up here, and then based on the timeline, you can from here you can choose the timeline and different other filtering criteria. You can click here, and you can add different sort of filtering criteria to narrow down the problem. Anyways, we don't have to do that for now. So this is talking about all the operations failed and successful, but this also talks about very detailed exceptions. You can see the exceptions straight away over here as well. If I click on that, it's going to take me to the exception that I'm getting. So it looks like I'm having 6 exceptions in my application. If I click on that, it will give me the details. So I'm going to drill into these exceptions to get more details. If I go there, you see I'm seeing all these 6 exceptions in detail. So over there, I clicked on that, and it gave me that exception in all the details, including the method where the problem occurred, the message, and all the complete stack trace here as well. See how handy it is, and all the number of exceptions I can see here. If I go down here, it's very clear that it's some sort of an SQL exception that I'm getting. Let's go on top just to see what's there on the high level. So it is saying that request by the origin client IP this is not allowed to access the server. To enable access, use. All right, so it's very straightforward that in the firewall rules of MySQL database, this application is not allowed because this IP is not whitelisted there. As I mentioned before, that this application is accessing Azure SQL database that I created, but when we deploy the application, that particular IP is not whitelisted, so that's why it's failing. So let's go back to the resource group. Let's go to our application, which is here. Oh, well, let's go to because the application is about and the error is about the access to SQL database. I'm going to the database. I'm going to set firewall rules, and I'm going to add the client IP of, I have to get back because I need to get the IP. So if I go back to the logs again, here, problem is here, go here, over here. Okay, so this is the IP. I'm going to copy this, go back to the resource groups, open the SQL database, set the firewall rule, and or here I'm gonna put. All right, so and IP I'm gonna put same. You can put the ranges here, but in this case it's just one IP of my app, whatever. All right, so I'm going to save it. It's now saved, done. Let's try to access the application now. Okay, so you can see the application is now accessible because we solved that issue. So you see how we started with the log stream and it didn't help us a lot, although it gave us a high level overview, but then we enabled the application inside and then how we tracked down the problem. Just to wrap up this video, I'm just gonna scroll through all different options on application insight to help you out in what other options we can use. So I'm back here. I'm gonna click on the application insight and back to the overview page. Now you can see the failed request, obviously, that we saw before, the server response time we can see here. Now we can see the successful request as well. So if I click on that, it is showing me whatever the accesses that has been happening. So you can see overall it's showing green, which means it's successful. So if I click on that, it'll show me all the details about how much time it took and whatever has been happening. I can further dig deep. So all the other things that you can, if you have used the New Relic or any other monitoring tool, you'll know that you'll be familiar with all these options. If we talk about other things, this application map gives you a bit of idea of what's happening while your application is trying to talk to other applications. So if you see my application is accessing another SQL database, I didn't do anything to configure this. This is automatically based on the communication. It figured out what is happening. Although the application that I deployed is also talking to Redis service and some other services, but it only could figure out based on the usage. It could figure out that it's accessing the SQL database. So you can see how much time it took and how many time it failed. And if you have your application that is talking to multiple applications, you can imagine how useful this is. And I can click on that and it'll show me in detail what has been happening. Smart detection is a functionality which proactively informs you about any potential problems that can happen in your application. In this right now it's a fairly new application, so you couldn't find really any helpful data here. Live metric stream, another option where you can see the live stream of your metrics. As the name says, usually the metrics takes around a minute to sink in, but this is to show you what is happening with your application on a live basis. So if I access this application again, see, and I go back here, you can see immediately it showed me the spike. And if it was an error, it will immediately show me the spike. So this is really helpful when you are trying to troubleshoot the application. And then you can open this up on your screen and then you can access it and you can see what's happening there. Going back there, we can search. So we can use the whole logging query language. And I'll talk about that to search different problems in here. And you've seen the failures already. Several logs you can see here, and further the troubleshooting option. Another important thing that I need to talk about is log analytics. If you go there, if you have worked in Splunk, you know Splunk is kind of an application that is a log aggregator. So it aggregates all the logs from different systems, and then you can query those logs, and then you can create alerts on that, so that if any sort of a problem or event occurs, it sends you an email or an SMS or other different notification options. So if I want to go in detail and try to figure out the details of what's happening with the application, I can write queries. If I go here, I should be able to see some sample queries over here, just to show you the power of this tool. I can get maybe response time trend. So you can see it wrote kind of a query for me, which is basically saying that anything from 12 hours ago, you create an average of the duration of the basically the timestamp and the performance of your application, and create a time chart out of that. I can say, for example, table here, and it will show me the application in tables. You can see over here. And if I go back, try to see some more samples in here. If we want to see the failures, let's see what this does. So this basically says where success is equal to false, which means a failure, and the RM count is top 10. So top 10 failures it will bring in and show a bar chart of that. I can create a table out of that. There are different options over here. I can choose the different sort of charts here. I can say, okay, show me line chart, and it'll show me this line chart over here. So different options over here. If you scroll a little bit onto the left, you can see different metrics that are provided here and their attributes. So it's a very extensive query, querying to your logs. You can put different sort of filters here, and I can say, okay, only to this particular page, and then we'll add that to the query. I can say apply and run, and you can see it added so that only show the problem on that particular page. So it's very, very rich. It takes a bit of time to understand and master this, but once you're master on the query, this query language, it's very handy. This particular thing is about all traffic. I'm not going to go into detail. You can explore these things. So that's it for today. You can see how handy these different utilities are to troubleshoot your applications. But one thing that I want to mention is that you need to consider that some of these things come with a price. So some of the options that you enable are have a cost associated with it. So just have a look at that before enabling any application, how much cost it's going to bring in. Thank you very much.